Welcome everybody. Welcome to the Lynn and Scott show. Today it's the Lynn and Two Hips and everybody else show. Scott Jones will be here when he gets here, and we do have a topic. And the person who picked the topic, she's not here. We were trusting she'd get here in the car, and she's not here right now.
Trust her.
This is a great way to start this topic with trust.
Now she has to figure out how we're going to gain back her trust. So it works perfect in the topic.
Yeah, there we go. So trust, gaining it, losing it, getting it back. I mean, it's going to be a great show. But first, I want to turn it to my temporary host here, Mr. Two Hips, who's thankfully he's getting better from just being under the weather. That's about how I'm going to say as far as being under the weather. We're just so grateful you're here, sir. How are you doing?
Feeling great. I haven't been sick in a long time, and something decided to partake part of my body, and just the way it was. But it's great to be back on the mend and back out in public and talking with people and having fun again.
And half of it's mind over matter, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's like everything else. You only feel as bad as you let yourself feel to a certain extent. Part of it is, physical, whatever you can't control. But then there comes a time where you flip a switch and say, let's get back at it. This is crazy. Let's just go out and have life again. So,
well, I'm glad you're here, and we love and appreciate you. So thank you for being here. It's just like if you get out of bed and you stump that toe and you think of something else, it's just.
Well, there's, again, we talk about it so often on this show. It's about choices, right?
Yeah.
And you can wallow in it and just sit there and oh, poor me, and whatever, or you can go, I felt better, I felt worse. Let's go, just go out. And at least what I find, it was interesting because I had this conversation today because I've been at live events for about the last 4 or 5 days, and part of why my voice is so deep because I've done so much talking, just talking with people. And we're talking about how energizing live events are, not just because you get to hear the presentations and the different people talking and things like that, but in the breaks, being able to sit and actually talk with people again and look them eye to eye and be right there and have those conversations. It just makes such a difference in we're social beings. And I mean, this goes back to the beginning of the pandemic when they said, we need to social distance. I said, no, I'll physical distance, but I refuse to social distance. We're social beings. We need to be in social contact with each other. And it's amazing at live events what a difference that makes.
I agree. I love that. Mr. Rex here, I think he's trying to fix his volume or something over there, but I'm gonna let Barry comment on something there.
Okay. Well, actually, Scott, what you said there, right at the beginning of the pandemic, when people said social distancing, I was like, no frigging way. I was like, it is physical distancing. So you're on the same page, you definitely, because that's the thing. You can still be social when you're 6 feet apart. So physical distancing is accurate. Social distancing is a choice. Yeah. Some people did isolate, so I totally understand that. Yeah. I definitely have watched people go through different iterations and experiences of that feeling of being left out or being separate because of circumstance or because of health and those other reasons. And I think in some ways, one of the blessings we've had over the last few years with the whole COVID thing that's been happening is that we get to try out new technologies. So Zoom, I don't think Zoom was quite that popular before 2019 or 2020, but the expansion of StreamYard and Zoom and all the other apps and things we use has made staying connected and being social easy.
Right.
So
Zoom was 10 million users in December of 2019 and 300 million in May of 2020.
And isn't it great that they had the capacity to be able to be at that level? Because gosh, I remember when Skype came out, it was kind of fuzzy and it wasn't as good. And then, of course, we got Zoom, and now we have other technology, which is great too.
Yeah. So. Well, but again, that was part of our conversation today too, is we ended up with video conference fatigue. I think we really got complacent with it.
Right.
because it became so easy.
Yeah.
You know, when we used to be face to face to each other, you actually kind of have to work at the conversation a little bit. And then when all of a sudden you could just be a little box on a screen, you know, you do about 15 other things and typically not wear any clothes. And maybe a top, right? So
Just don't get up from your chair.
Yeah.
Well, that's exactly it. You know, I mean, everybody, you know, just they changed so many different habits along the way. But I really, again, as part of the conversation today, I think that people started to get complacent about the fact that all of a sudden they found a new, easier way of doing it. So I don't know that I need to invest quite as much. The other thing is they ended up doing it so much that I think they just got fatigued with it.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
where's the meaning behind it all?
Right. Well, the thing is, this is going back a few years ago now. I used to work with a friend of mine, which we used to events, and they would do a what's he doing?
He's just trying to be distracting.
But we do events that basically had a dual approach, where there was an in-room group of about 50 people, then about 25, 30 people on Zoom who were in different parts of the world. So this room became this event became a very interesting conversation because people would talk back and forward from live to virtual and back. So it had some real usefulness then. But yeah, now with the proliferation of Zoom calls like 5 times a day, it does get a bit tiring.
So my experience of COVID was, wow, this is cool. And I don't mean that lightly, and I don't make light of any of the people who suffered, you know, illness or death. But, you know, for the first time in my life and maybe a century, you know, we were challenged by something that we had never experienced. And, you know, whether it was political or not political, whether it was science or not science, whether it was this or not this, I mean, everything got upheavaled. You know, you were either masking or not masking or telling people to screw themselves if they did get vaccinated or they didn't get vaccinated. I mean, everything just went kind of into chaos. And that was in some ways very beautiful, because at the same time that we were in chaos, we had a technology that allowed us to stay connected.
Yeah.
And during COVID, I went to the dog park all the time. I mean, you know, we just were 12 feet apart or whatever. You know, it didn't stop doing that. But so I think, you know, when it comes down to everything, whether you're Zoom fatigued or not Zoom fatigued, that is a choice that you make.
Yep.
You know, and that there's 2 Johns. My God,
I know we got him cloned here.
There.
Technology is getting weird.
Trouble. Yeah, and but yeah, it just, you know, it all is a choice, and you know, if for us to be complaining, and I don't mean anybody here, but I'm just saying for people to be complaining,
right?
We survived COVID, and that we have a technology that has allowed us to stay connected during some of our most what appeared to be troubling times, you know, is kind of like going, you know, get away from me, kid, you bother me, you know, as opposed to going, wow, I have this little kid here, you know. I mean, it's like we are so lucky in so many ways, and it kind of goes to I mean, we're here, we read Napoleon Hill, we read Wallace Wattles, we read Robert Collier, we read, you know, Elsie Bennett, we read all these people, and it's amazing that for all the people who do that, they then whine and complain and you know, misery loves company, and they go right down the rabbit hole instead of going, you know, wow.
Yeah, they actually did, Rex. They just didn't have social media to post it on. So
that's why I mean, I was joking when I was doing this thing while you were talking.
No, I know.
But the point is so many people, you know, this is how they live their lives now. You know, we talk about whether we social distanced or not, and people are socially distanced even when they're in the same restaurant or in the same living room with
at the same table. Well, the happy byproduct of COVID is people recognizing they could expand their reach. And so all of a sudden now, as opposed to being in a networking group in a zip code, right now, all of a sudden you're adding people in South Africa and New Zealand and Australia and in the UK and different things, and being able to talk to so many more people and experience so many more things along the way as well. So I totally agree with you. I think that that's why it's fun to be at live events, to be in those conversations again. And it was interesting how we were talking about just the enhancements in technology and what it's done for people's business models as well. Did it modify them? Oh yeah, certain portions of business models went away, certain portions of business models became available. And the only question is, did you make the choice to take advantage of them, or are you making that choice?
Well, and I don't think that we should think in terms of replacing things.
No,
Adding into things. We
Right.
have live events, and now we have Zoom, and we have the ability to connect all around the world that we didn't before. It shouldn't be one versus the other.
It was interesting. I was watching a show on Apple TV called For All Mankind, which is about this. It was about alternative views about what happened to the space race didn't go the way it went. But the thing is, they started in the 60s and 70s, so the environment they had with the the phone in the kitchen with the long phone cable, those sort of things that I remember as a kid. It's like going back and going, in some ways, we were very lucky there wasn't social media when we were young. Because we could have gotten in so much trouble, That stuff's all gone. It's like, there may be some Polaroid pictures from back then, but that's about it. We generally escape that.
I wonder if anybody ever thought, how are they going to get a cord long enough to get to the moon?
I'm sure.
Well, not only that, but you had to buy your porn at a stand.
Yeah, indeed.
You couldn't just do it online anonymously.
I would expect that out of Barry, not you, Rex.
I didn't. Yeah, that's a good.
And we haven't even gotten to our topic yet. So go ahead, Barry.
We're getting there.
Okay.
The thing is, when we started the internet, I mean, I do remember dial-up way back in the day, and that's I very much being the vanguard.
You and Al.
Say again.
You and Al Gore.
Oh, the Internet of Tubes.
Yeah, before global warming.
No, but the thing is, like where we are now. I mean, about 3 months ago, we got fiber optics installed where we are.
Yeah.
So the speed of internet has gone through the roof. It's amazing, but it's become so complacent. We've gotten used to it, which is great in a way. But the thing is, and just to spit into the topic gently, one thing we had to do is start making assumptions, and we get so convenient about things like having internet the way it is.
Yeah,
I think it's true about relationships just as much. It's funny you said about the people about having the phone when you're in the room with somebody else. There's a meme I posted again like a few months ago about this priest, doing the blessing of the wedding, and it's the husband and wife standing in front of each other. I now pronounce you man and wife. You now may update your social status, so they're both on their phones putting up. It's like that's how crazy it's gotten.
Yeah.
And so taking the time, like you were saying earlier, about meeting in person, face to face, that's where trust is built. It's much harder to build trust in a virtual world, I think. So to bring it into the topic, because I was like, I know we're getting so far beyond where we started from.
Right.
Is the fact that when we meet face to face, meet in person, for me, it's interesting because meeting people who meet virtually first is one of the interesting things I've explored. And then meeting them in real life, it could be like, you're so like I thought you were. Yeah. Alternatively, you're so not like I thought you were. So it's an interesting experience of going from virtual to real. So building relationship and rapport in person absolutely is where trust is built. There, got you on top.
Exactly why we have a mortgage guy on the show.
Speaking of, just a year ago, I got to meet Barry in person, and just this summer I got to meet this great guy in person.
See, there you go. You're just verifying we're real people.
That's right, verifying real people, and I can't wait to meet these other 2 guys here in the bottom this next year, God willing. God willing.
Mr. Horton, from the mortgage experience.
Yes.
It's funny you said that, Barry, because we've had these, conversations with clients that a lot of people, the younger generation, I'm a face-to-face guy. A lot of people don't want to meet. But it really is funny, like you're talking to a client and you know what they look like. In your mind, man, I know what Mrs. Turner looks like. I know what Mr. Turner looks like. And then you get their ID for their verification for their mortgage. It's like, son of a bitch. I was so way off. It's not even funny.
Shoot, am I going to give him a loan or not?
You're done. But you know what? I think just from what you were saying, first of all, Scott, no one can stand up. After your comments about pants, no one is allowed to stand up during this, during what we're doing right now. And there was something that came out on AI. And again, I'm a big face-to-face. I'm shake hand, kiss babies, let's go. A lot of people don't. And you really have to know your audience, whether it's writing a book or doing a presentation or I haven't written a book. I won't say that many more times, but talking to people, you got to know your audience. You got to I always tell my guys on my team, it's the Sybil. You got to be like Sybil. You have to have so many personalities. You have to, if your person is anal and here's what they want, or they're real casual, here's what they want, play your audience no matter what kind of business you're in. But it's also for the kids now a convenience factor. Yeah. They're so used to this. Oh, I'll Zoom. I'll do this. I'll do that. I'm like, man, there's nothing better than just going out and meeting people and seeing what's going on. So it's just funny that you said that, because I envision my customers. I know here's what we're doing. And when I started realizing, I'm envisioning their personalities, not what they look like. Who cares what you look like? I'm sure they'd be very disappointed if they knew what I look like, but they see it on the website. But it really comes down to do it, personality. People deal with people like themselves. I don't care if your rate on your mortgage is 2.5 and the other guy is 8. If he likes the guy at 8, he's going there. But the whole Zoom thing, I've never been a big fan. I think it's amazing. I think it brought us through a really tough time. But I think what it did for the younger generation, my kids, for example, and younger, they're doing something now where don't worry about your test. I can't remember. But, man, they are making it so easy for these kids. You missed a year.
Yeah, they're making it seemingly easy at the moment, which will, normally when it's a little harder at the moment, it'll pay dividends later on. Well, making it seemingly easy today is going to have great cost later on. There's no, again, just interesting, the things that we've been talking about, being in these live settings over the last few days, and people just, it's like there's life back in them, and really being able to experience and share stories. Now, what's interesting is we had a young intern that was helping me, and I was actually checking people into to this seminar event. And he said, "Can I ask you a question?" And I said, "Sure." He said, "Well, with all your experience and everything you've done, why are you at the front table?" I said, "Man, it's the very best place to be. I get to meet everybody. And I get to start the key to relationships, which is rapport, which now leads into our topic." And I said, the bottom line is people do business with those they know, like, and trust. And the reality is, the way I coach and train, I suggest everybody use that and say, they don't know me, even if they know you. Start again. That they don't know you, and if they don't know you, assume they don't like you, and if they don't like you, assume they don't trust you. But it's imperative to have trust to work together. And so therefore you have such a huge opportunity to build rapport, create the relationship, nurture the relationship. And again, so the topic, trust, first gaining it, well, it comes with getting to know you and like you first. I mean, trust is hard to earn and easily lost. And so the with this topic, trust, gaining it is work. Gaining it is earning it. Gaining it is getting to know people, to like people, to have the conversations, to care about them and learn that. If you break trust, that's when you lose trust. Getting it back is a bitch. That's the only way to say it is, the reality is people date those they trust. People marry those they trust. People divorce those they no longer trust.
Exactly.
It's about trust. So this topic is extremely important. Barry, you're the relationship guy. Give us your take on this topic going forward.
Well, I've heard rumors that I'm doing that, so I can talk into this area. One thing definitely, and what you said absolutely true, is it's much harder to build trust than it is to lose it. Which means when you lose it, it's going to be a much bigger climb to get back to building it again in relationships, especially when. I mean, I have not had a lot of clients like this, but I've had clients in the past who had partners who basically cheated on them. Once that has happened, to restore, rebuild, and recreate trust afterwards, it's a long journey. One of the ways I learned trust, this going back many years ago in a seminar I took, and it's all over the world, was that trust is often built by keeping your word. Like when you keep your word and you keep your agreements, people start to trust that and you build rapport that way. It's one way to do it in relationship, business, anyway. The thing is, if you don't keep your agreements, there she is. She's in her car.
Okay, we can trust her again. She showed up.
Yes.
She's back in the queen.
I'm sorry, you guys. I'm sorry to be late.
It's okay.
Hang on, you're not in your car. You're
We'll
in a park.
evaluate that statement here in a second.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, so the thing about keeping agreements is it's a way of building trust. And the thing I remember this years ago, David Allen, who wrote Getting Things Done, who I've known for many, many years. He talks about the fact that he used to write things down, not to remember them, but to forget them. Because the thing is, when you keep your agreements and you make notes of them, so you track them, so you know what you're doing, you can relax a lot more. So one of the biggest gifts you give yourself is having your agreements in a place that you don't have to worry about anymore. Because most of us, we juggle our agreements because we make so many verbal ones without realizing it, and then we wonder why we keep getting trust falling apart with certain people because we didn't keep our agreement. We didn't show up on time. We didn't say we'd call them when we did. We didn't call them when we said we would. So building trust, it does require work, which some people hate the idea of doing that. But if you start to keep your agreements with people, again, whether it's communication, showing up, keeping the agreements in your marriage, yes, good ones as well. It's those sort of things. But the other part is that a lot of people don't do is say no. We have a bad habit of saying yes to too many things, and we don't keep our agreements very well, which means we don't become trustworthy because somebody's going to feel us not keeping our agreement with them. Saying no with somebody is another way of building trust, because you say no because you can't do it, and they go, great, I can honor that, I can respect that, and I can appreciate that. So I would suggest anybody watching this, if you want to have more trust in your life and more clarity in your life, watch what you say yes to and watch what you say no to. That'll get you started.
It's great advice.
I love
Helen,
that.
and as the creator of this topic, what's your take?
Well, I haven't heard what you guys have said already.
That's okay. Start over.
Yes, start from the beginning.
Well, what were your intentions with this topic other than leave it here and run and not show up? Not just kidding. Thank you for showing up.
I got stuck in traffic. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
So, my thing was I was going to ask you guys a bunch of questions. Like,
Okay.
can you gain trust back? You know, because once trust is lost, it's a huge. I don't even know if it's possible to get it back. I mean, can you ever get it back after it's been lost?
Well, Mr. Rex was the next one to talk.
Yeah.
So
Put him on the spot.
yes, he just wet his whistle.
Of course you can. It will be whatever you decide it will be. If you're going to go, I can give my trust to you completely, and forgive and forget and let go. It's the people who go, I will forgive you, but I won't forget.
Right.
How do they forgive them? If you're always holding something over someone's head, that doesn't sound like forgiveness to me. Those people who actually forgive and forget and let go and go, you know what? I embrace you. You look at the prodigal son, the story, true or not. Kid goes off, does all this crap. Dad goes, come on back and celebrate. And the other kids are going, wait a second. He ran off and did all this bad stuff. He goes, yeah, but he's back. Why would you hold it against him if you love him? So the question is, yes, of course you can get it back. I think that the problem with people, especially this day and age, and I say this with some reservation, in that there's all this stuff about boundaries, and setting boundaries and setting limits and doing, which is not an unhealthy thing to know and have, but it's also gotten way out of whack where people don't like other people. They want to exclude things. They want to eliminate stuff. They want to limit things. They want to restrict things, and I think, the more you can include in your life, the better you are. Now, that doesn't mean get frenetic and haywired and, go totally bizarre. But for example, I'll give you a little example of something that we see every day. You go into a supermarket now and there's the self-checkouts. And some people go, I don't use self-checkouts because they're replacing people. I will never use them. And other people use them because they want to get through the thing faster. I agree. If they're replacing people, they're not that cool. But if you use them in addition to people to move the lines faster without removing the other employees, then you're adding a value to the situation, not trying to save money and, by cutting employees and, and taking people's jobs away. So the question becomes is how do you add value? How do you add love and trust and compassion and goodness to people instead of it always being, and or removing stuff. So I'm also, just so you know, my definition of trust has to do where your locus of attention is. If another person genuinely knows and feels that their interests are in your heart, they can trust you. If they suspect that your interests are not their interests or their interests are not your interests, it's very difficult to trust you because, why would you? You're not looking out for me. You're looking out for you. So there's this thing about who are we? Where do we pay attention to? And I'll wrap it up with this. Also, trust comes from the company you keep. Because people look at you, your reputation precedes you, and they look around and go, who are your friends? And who are your colleagues and everything else. It's not just the company you keep, but the company you seek.
Yep. Very interesting. That's another one of the part of the topics today was about false prophets. And that's PHOP prophets and PROFIT profits, right?
Ooh.
And there's a lot of false prophets out there counting, and that's the intention that you were just talking about, Rex.
Counterfeits, by all means.
That's exactly it. The talk of it, but it was actually quite funny. And Barry, I had to think of you earlier today because we actually came up with a new slogan, and that is, "Where's the pony?"
It's back. It's back.
Well, no, but it was somebody actually told the story from stage today
Correctly.
And correctly. They
Good.
actually had all parts of it. It was amazing.
Yay.
It was amazing how well it was given. But we actually got into the really saying, and there is something about that positive expectation of where's the pony, right? And it's the same thing. I think in trust is such a big thing. Can you gain it back? Yeah. Does it take a lot of work to gain it back? Yes. And you're right, Rex. I mean, I'll forgive, but I won't forget. Well, then you haven't forgiven. You're right. Absolutely. The reality is you earn it back by doing the way you get trusted is to be trustworthy.
There you go.
Well, you have to be worthy of trust.
I want to jump in with you on that because the point is so important. Yeah. And that is if I break somebody's trust, it's on me to try to earn it back.
Right.
They might forgive me or not forgive me, but the point is, if the idea that the problem with the forgiveness thing is that people think, well, then it's just carte blanche. I can do anything I want because they'll always forgive me, and that's not the way I'm proposing it. Trust is earned, and if I violate somebody's trust and I need to repair that, it's up to them whether they choose to forgive and forget.
Very, very much so.
Yeah.
Well,
I completely agree with you. But
you hope
if they violate my trust, then the question becomes: do I forgive and forget, or do I go, well, you know what? I'm not going to. I've done it. I'm not going to do it. So it's always the individual's choice in whatever position you are. The trust breaker, the trust giver,
Well, you hope you learn from that lesson, and you going forward, you never do that to anybody else either.
Some of the things that people don't recognize is, they're always late. Well, they're always late is a broken trust. If everybody's supposed to be there at the top of the hour, everybody's supposed to be there at the top of the hour. 5 minutes after, 10 minutes after is not. And Kellen, this is not personal. Don't take it that way.
No, she's been online. She's been on time many times.
I know.
I hope you can trust me.
No, but I'm just saying that this is, it made me, when Rex was talking about boundaries and things like that. But the person who sits there and says, I'm always late, they might as well just say, I always feel I am far more important than you are.
Mhm.
Because in essence, that's what they're saying, right?
Yeah.
Is your time is not as important as my time, or you've committed to do certain things at a certain time, and that's what I think becomes so valuable. So, Kellen, what other questions do you have on this topic?
Actually, I want to jump in on the back end of that for a
Please.
second. That thing about not showing up on time, especially one of my pet peeves. I went through a big training that kicked my butt to show me that being on time was important, as in keeping agreements. It used to be story, but nowadays, because we all have smartphones and we can text, if you don't have the energy to text somebody and say, I'm really 10 minutes late getting there, and I agree with you totally that person's choice is they value their own time more than the person they're meeting. But if they text and say, I'm stuck in traffic, I'll be there, there wasn't you, Kellen, I'm talking about doing other things. It's the fact that when you do actually put out communication saying, look, I know I'm supposed to be there at 11, but I'll be there at 11:10 because because I'm stuck in traffic. And it's like, great, I know that's what they're doing. They take into account of me, so I feel included. I can trust that. But it's definitely the case that we have technology now that makes it easier, but people still ignore it. So I agree with you about who's.
I would.
Go ahead.
I was just going to add, when you have a situation like that, like Barry, I'm going to meet you for lunch tomorrow, and we'll meet at, such and such a place at such and such a time. We've now made an agreement. We've made a contract, essentially. We haven't signed a paper, but we have a contract to meet. Now, if I'm going to be late, it would only be common courtesy and smart to call up Barry and go, Barry, I'm going to be late. I can't, I'm stuck or whatever. Is it really that difficult for people to understand to treat somebody with the kind of respect that they would want to be treated with, so that Barry's not sitting at a table going, well, what the heck am I doing here?
Yeah.
I think it's interesting that at one point Rex could be on his phone as we started this thing, that he could be texting us all in the beginning, but then when he was going to be late, he refused to text us. Right. So that's but I mean, there's such a dichotomy, right?
Right.
And how come you didn't respond to me? Well, because I was busy texting or I was doing whatever. Well, how come you're late? Well, I probably should have texted you. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, it's like, where's one time it's an excuse, one time it's a convenience, right?
Yeah.
And it's the same device. That's the
I just want to say that's beautiful. And I want to take it back a step to the notion of forgiveness and trust being, the whole thing. Well, for those people who like Jesus, what was his answer when someone said, how often should we forgive?
7 times 7.
70 times 7.
70 times 7. Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of like endless, right? I mean, it's just, you just keep doing it.
It's the rest of the book, Barry.
Yeah, it depends on which book you read. But
Kellen, you set a great example so that we could have this conversation.
Thank you for that gift.
And that's if you read it.
What other questions do you have on this, Kellen?
Well, I was going to go back to what you guys were talking about, and I think being impeccable with your word is key, because once you have that, then you don't have a trust issue at all, right? I mean, doesn't that solve 99% of it?
Yes.
So, so I love what you guys have been saying about, and then in the forgiving and then not forgetting, because I'm guilty of the not forgetting, okay, especially with my marriage. I'm like, I forgave, but I have not forgotten. So, but I'm not in a situation where I'm going to need his trust again, because I'm not putting myself in that situation, which brings up what you guys were talking about when I first got here. There's boundaries. If you have those boundaries, then that seems to be answering all my questions today, between being impeccable with your word and the boundaries.
But
a question for you.
Yes.
Is, you say you don't necessarily need to forgive because you don't need his trust again. Will you ever have a similar situation where you do need that trust?
That's interesting. Because I have forgiven him. I just have not forgotten.
Well, but okay. So but will there be a time where it would be more valuable for you to forget that?
Right.
Or at least put it back in the recesses, that it doesn't get pulled up as often.
Right. Or it happens again and I have the same reaction.
Well, there's I'm sorry, Dennis, you were going to say something?
No, I was just going to say I agree with you there that it no longer becomes the trigger that fires off something else.
So I spoke on Jesus, now I want to speak on Buddha.
It's going to be inclusive.
You are so
there you go, Barry. Exactly. No, but the idea, the Buddha said, wishing harm on somebody else is like drinking poison and help. We're all people here of attitude and mindset and positive thinking and all this stuff. If you're harboring less than glorious thoughts of another person, whether you're psychically damaging them or not, is maybe or maybe not the case. I don't want to. Oh, my arm disappeared. Oh my God, I feel.
You told him not to stand up, so other things are happening.
He's losing other parts.
But the point is it's not. Yes, that may be that psychically you're injuring somebody else by harboring. But the point is, you're also harming yourself by maintaining an attitude of this person is, a pain in my butt, or this, that, or the other thing, or whatever, whether it's true or not. Trust. If I want you to trust me, I have to be the kind of person who you would be willing to give trust to. But I can't demand trust from other people. Right. And I can't ensure that people will trust me just because I'm trustworthy. They may go, I don't care who he is. I'm not going to trust him no matter what. That's their business. Now, if I then think, oh, these people are all jerks or, cretins or whatever, then I'm not helping anything. I'm not even helping myself because it's my attitude that's poisoning me.
So you're not allowing things to flow. You're not allowing things to come in and out and flow. You actually have a blockage within yourself that is not allowing things. You're allowing toxic things that are in not to leave too. So there's like that piece of cancer that's still stuck there. That with that piles compound. It's compounding, and eventually that's gonna break. It's gonna be a ripple effect somewhere. So you've got to release that as well.
John, you always talk about your positive nature with your team and everything.
Yeah.
And looking for the good. Share a little bit on your feeling on this whole trust process.
You know what? And if I lose you, my internet is horrible. So
he didn't pay his lights this month.
Everything's freezing. Like Kellyanne, your hair looks beautiful, but it's frozen right where it's at. I see it. It's where it's at. You actually lost me on the, it's the trust with the client. It really is. Your client trusts you. You trust them. It's the biggest investment of their life. I mean, that to me, if you take it on the relationship side, I'm trusting you, Scott, that you're telling me the truth about what you make and what's in your bank account. When I get all the information, if it's not true, we just broke trust. So you could do it relationship-wise or business-wise. Right. And one absolutely leads to the other. And the one thing which I would have coined years ago when you were talking about meetings, Scott, I used to call it the hanger theory. Your coat has to be the first on the hanger and the last one off, because you want to be the first one at that event and you want the last one to leave. Yep. And what you're going to do as we build into this is you're going to build trust with people, saying, I'm not here just to give you a business card. I'm here early. I leave late. So business-wise, I think in no matter what you're in, people are trusting you with their life. I don't care if you're buying a car, you're buying a house, you're buying a book, you're doing whatever, you're buying insurance. Congratulations, Lynn, on passing your insurance exam, by the way. Again, to build that trust with your clients where they give you everything. Here's my social security number. Here's my family history. Once you build that trust on the business side, that's your next client. That's your next referral. So I think it could all come together where it really, people look at it relationship wise, which is great. But if you want to build your business, you got to start You got to have that foundation, and then you're going to build that house, man. And you're going to build that house with all your customers inside of it. And guess what? That's your next deal. That's your next. And it starts in the beginning, but it just kind of blows up from there.
So let me ask you, John, real quick, in the sense that you've been a mortgage broker for a while. What made you realize in relationships, to be in that kind of arena? I mean, what?
I got married and had 6 kids, and I couldn't do radio anymore. That really was. Honestly, that's my honest answer. That was it, dude. I remember,
you gave into it. You gave into it and realized that, and since then you've had the best time of your life.
Oh yeah, no one can hear me.
See, the lights came back.
Right. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
No, it is. It's something where you have this dream of doing radio for the rest of your life, but then all of a sudden you meet a woman in a bar and your whole life changes. Absolutely.
Yeah. Wow. See, he trusts. He gained it. He hasn't lost anything, but he's getting back on the saddle.
That's what you got to do. You kind of do what's best for you and your family, but you may have these visions of where you want to go, and young kids, whatever you want to do, that can turn on a dime. You know what I mean? But it goes back to trusting what you're thinking is best for you and best for the future. And whether it works out or not, it's a crapshoot. It literally is a crapshoot.
Well, thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that.
It's interesting. Again, at this live event yesterday, I had one copy of Second Chances with me, and talked to this person I had never met before, and for whatever reason, I offered her the book, and I said, it's I'm one of 23 authors telling near death, been dead. One guy died 5 times, coming back. There's a woman with 4 kids who somehow got on heroin and is now off, and whatever, just these second chance stories. And she goes, "Oh my God, you want to give me this book?" And I said, "Yeah." She goes, "I love the lotus flower. In my country, that's very representative of starting over and doing all that." And she said, "Would you sign it?" And I said, "Well, certainly." And she goes, "Well, sign it to my brother. He's having a really super hard time right now." And it was like, what a happenstance to have her, no idea who, had never met her before. It was a simple offer that all of a sudden turned into her sharing some things that then allowed to share some other things back and gain a relationship. And afterwards it was like, can we stay in touch? Well, absolutely. So, it's amazing how a little investment of kindness, of niceness, of it doesn't take that much typically. The other thing I was thinking about is people walking away today after lunch, and some people sitting there continuing to have conversations, and people walking and just taking their dirty plates and saying, "Here, let me take it to the trash for you." "Oh, thank you so much." And what a little bitty gesture that was to gain a trusting relationship that then turned into other conversations as the day went on. It doesn't take a lot typically. It just takes proactivity.
You know what, Scott? Not to interrupt, but it was so funny that you said that. We had a guy in the office today, and one of our vendors came in and just brought in a ton of pizza and pop and salad and everything else, and just out of the blue. It was great for him for sales wise. But when it was done, I'm sitting at this table and I sent out an email. I'm like, "Hey, the pizza fairy showed up. Come on in, conference room." And then all I did was get up and pick up the garbage can. That's all I did. Because everyone was done, and I figured these guys need to go do something. And you pick up the garbage. I'm like, "Why are you doing this?" I'm like,
why not?
Why? Sit back. And you know what's funny? After I did it, I like to sit back, whether I'm at a meeting or a wedding. I don't care what it is. Wherever you network with people, I love to start to shit and then sit back. And then you watch what you started. You don't want credit for it, but you watch what you started. And all of a sudden, things start happening. So I pick up the garbage, and like, why did John, actually the young kid, why did Mr. Horton, I'm firing him tomorrow, by the way, just for saying that. He was like, why did Horton pick up the garbage? But literally, I sat back and I just walked around. And you know what? Maybe next time someone else will do that. That may build a relationship. That may do something else. But it was just, I guess I've been doing this so long, or you guys have been doing this so long, to see what simple reaction that is by literally those paper plates. It was nothing.
Right.
I wasn't dirty. I didn't do anything that I should, it wasn't washing me. But to see what that started with other people,
right,
was amazing.
Hey, Scott.
Hey,
We're
guys.
So glad to see you here.
Apologies. I was training in South Miami, and we got caught in this really, really bad rain going on right now. So it took a long time to get back. So I apologize, but good to see you guys.
So we covered what you were going through earlier in the show.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah,
we covered that earlier.
Believe me, I heard.
You already covered getting stuck in traffic?
Yeah, and that was Kellen. That was our big conversation on Kellen. So
hi, Linda. And I want a quick shout out to Mark Rodriguez, who just became a new grandpa. So and he's
Awesome.
killing it as a grandpa. So and hey,
No,
Linda,
awesome,
thanks for being
Scott.
here.
Not that you got stuck. It's awesome that you're training, you're investing in other people. That's really
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, we were working with American Airlines, a great group of people, and was training in one of American Airlines hangars where they do the work on the planes and stuff. It was really kind of cool. It was really exciting, but good group of people, and trying to motivate them for better communication in their company and everything. It's good stuff. Good stuff.
Nice.
But I
nice.
miss seeing you guys. So
Well, good.
Glad you're here.
Well,
thank you.
You're here for the perfect time because we're going to start wrapping up the topic on trusting, and
I gotta go. I go first.
I don't trust any of you people, so this is good that I missed this.
yeah.
You learn something.
First,
No, go
ahead.
ahead.
This was like the little bit that I got to take part of it. I am going to go back and listen to the whole thing because I feel bad for missing any of it. But the part that I'm taking with me is the forgiving but not forgetting. I need to really rethink that in my mind. And, sometimes I call it indifference. I'm indifferent towards that person, but I'm going to take that and I'm going to reflect on that. And I'm going to work on that myself.
That's awesome.
I love that. Yeah.
Hey,
'cause
Callahan, before you go, you are absolutely amazing. I know we've had some conversations. You worked with my company. You came on one of my calls. So stop feeling bad about yourself. You're fucking unbelievable. And thank you.
Yes. She is.
Break leg.
Okay. I love you, Kellen.
Bye,
So-
guys.
Bye.
To follow up on what you said, so if you're going to get off the show, definitely watch this part of the replay. As a wrap-up thing, the thing about forgiveness, and this is the thing I definitely go against the grain on, is forgiveness is not about anybody else. Forgiveness is for ourselves.
Yeah.
And I know it's like you forgive them for what they do, they don't know what they're doing, that sort of stuff. It's like, no. If for example, you're in a relationship and your partner cheats on you, the forgiveness isn't about letting them off the hook. The forgiveness is about letting yourself off the hook. And what we don't remember to do oftentimes is give ourselves the kindness, the compassion, the forgiveness, so that we can trust ourselves again. Because the things what happens is that person cheats on us, we lose trust in them, but we lose trust in ourselves because we didn't recognize they were going to do that. We didn't think they were going to do that, whatever that was. So by having the understanding that we can forgive ourselves, then we can be at peace with what we have broken trust with or had trust broken with us, and we can move forward. So if the other person, we divorce them, whatever, we get rid of them, so to speak. We can be in the place where we don't necessarily forget what they did, but we don't keep attached to it ourselves because we've forgiven ourselves and we can move on. So we're not carry on these hooks of judgment stuck into ourselves. So forgiveness is an inside job.
Yeah.
I like that, Barry. My father told me, he says, it doesn't do any good to bury the hatchet if you're going to mark it with a tombstone and visit it. If you're going to bury it and be done with it. You don't forget the incident because we learn from our incidences, but you don't carry that grudge anymore. You got to let it go.
Right.
Stop visiting it all the time.
I think it's also important not to live your life solely by memes and platitudes and things that people have said, because some things people have said while they're proliferated all around the planet aren't worth paying attention to. And other things are, and I would never tell somebody you should do this or you shouldn't do that. You should forgive this person or you should forget this or you should. That's everybody's individual choice. That's the path that they're on. You know, the opportunity is there for you to forgive, to forget, to let go, to move on. That doesn't necessarily mean you have to exclude them. It may mean that you include them. But that is your journey. That is your path. That is your discovery to make. It's not for somebody else to tell you what to do, whether it's a priest, a rabbi, a politician, or a parent. But that is oftentimes the role that we take. Well, you should do this and you should do that. And here's how you do this and here's how you do that. And I'm a huge proponent in this, and people oftentimes don't get it. You know, I call myself a trainer, and I've been an educator and all this. None of that is true. I present, and other people either get it or they don't. It's up to them whether they're acquiring. It's the apprehension of the ability to apprehend what is being taught. I'm not doing something. I'm not pouring it into them. They're extracting it from what the examples are, what the words are, whatever.
Yeah.
So much of life is lived in reverse, where we think we're doing these things and creating these things and, you know, all that kind of stuff, instead of going, you know what? I may be a catalyst unintentionally.
Right.
But I certainly don't want to be a negative catalyst or a harmful catalyst intentionally or unintentionally if I can, you know, prevent that for myself. So I want to live and let people live and let them make their own choices, and hope with faith and trust that they will make the wisest ones for themselves at the moment that they're in, and that they won't further cause harm to themselves or other people, you know, if that can be prevented. But there's the old saying, platitude, which I just got done saying, don't pay attention to, is, you know, you can't save a fool from oneself. So we'll do whatever we do, and that's part of the journey that we're on.
Right.
What a great, you know, I hadn't even had that thought before. You know, I think of myself as a teacher, trainer, instructor, but the truth is I'm just somebody who stands in front making noise. If I'm a trainer, that's determined by the person listening, whether I'm a trainer or not. It's not determined by what I say. It's by what they choose. I like that. I hadn't thought about that. Thanks, Rex.
Love that.
I've already been.
Oh,
He
sure.
said he said no. I already did it.
No.
I don't want
Well,
to. No.
I think Kellen started us, but I'm going to go back to you in a minute again anyways, Barry, but go ahead.
So get something
I'll
ready.
stick
I
to
gotta
him.
do some studying.
Came at the office.
I just to acknowledge what Rex said, I agree with that. I think, you know, we as speakers, trainers, authors, coaches take the knowledge and the study that we've taken and offer up ideas for consideration. Yeah. And whether anybody chooses to truly consider and or adopt or use those things, that becomes up to them. And I mean, I'm a huge believer, again, said it today multiple times in different conversations. I look for people with want to. If they got want to, the rest can be wrapped around it. If they don't want to learn something, if they don't want to modify their activities, if they don't want to care about people, you can't make somebody do those things. But if they inherently have that intent to want to make a positive impact on the planet or do all those different things, then you can offer up potential ideas for their consideration. And I think that that's the biggest thing. And even as a sales trainer, I don't ever want to sell you anything. I always want you to buy a lot from me. Mm-hmm. So that's offering up things for consideration for then you to make that determination. Because if you're not doing anything for my reasons along the way, this is how it's going to benefit you down the path, whatever that path might be, and all those different things. And I think that that's when we come to talking about trust and gaining it and losing it and getting it back, let me tell you, the best way to gain it and get it back is not lose it in the first place. You know, once you've earned it and you've taken the time to be kind to somebody so they can consider that action and go, wow, I like that. This is somebody I'd like to be around. don't lose it in the first place. Why do something stupid? And I think that's there's tremendous value to becoming more mature. More mature is the code word for getting older. We have experienced more things. And I think when you experience more things, hopefully your discernment meter gets a little bit better. And you say, gosh, I did that in the past. I don't ever want to do that again, because it caused a reaction different than I would have wanted from that side. So, I mean, I think the biggest thing is we offer things up for consideration and hope that people see it as beneficial to them, and they take that and then they put it into action. The other part of it is, the reality is, we can't make anybody do anything. And unless they take it and they put it into action, it's different. I said it over the last week. I'm no different than anybody else, except for maybe one thing. I've taken more action on more possibilities. And when you take the actions, then all of a sudden you have more experience. And I think that's available to anybody who wants to take massive action.
Boom.
And I failed more than anybody else.
What's that?
And I failed more than anybody else.
Absolutely. Because you've taken more action at it. You've taken more swings.
Right.
Mr. Horton.
John.
Well, I got to tell you what, it's funny you said about getting old. I realized I was getting old today driving home from work when I couldn't figure out what was in front of my eyes. It was my eyebrows. So, when they start getting a little, it just, that's the first sign of it's got to happen. And
it's your Andy Rooney impression.
I know, it's a visual you will never get out of your head tonight. We talked earlier, or a couple of weeks ago, Michael Jordan missed more shots than he made. My thing with the team is, and it's an old adage, vibe with your tribe. You're gonna get with people that want to be with you. You may have the best customer, the best client, the best author, whatever it is. If you're not vibing with that groove, you don't want them. You can fire them. You know what? They work for you. You want to be in that tribe where you can help people. If you can find yourself not helping people as much as you try, and you guys know more than I do, obviously, you don't want them in that tribe. You want to make that group strong where you can get other people energized, where they can bring that out to other people. They feel good. Where'd you hear about it? I heard it from Lynn, heard it from Scott, heard it from Rex, heard it from Scott, heard it from Barry. And all of a sudden, you got more people in your tribe. So I need to go because I can't. I've got to do something about this. Love it. I know.
Well,
I don't want to take the kids' shavers because that's going beyond. Anyway, I got to go. I can't continue with this. Love you guys, man.
As part of one of our chiefs of our tribe, we now dub you Chief Eagle Brow, and you will.
Was that eagle or beagle?
Either one. It's all good. It's all good.
Maybe you could do a comb over of one to the other.
Unibrow. There you go.
Chief Unibrow.
Just catch a big wind and just wave.
Oh man! On that note, I guess we can trust. We're done here now.
Barry, did you want to add something? She said she was going to bring you back in.
Sure. One quick thing. If you want a greater trust in your life, say no more often.
Good.
Good point.
That's good. And I apologize for missing the show, guys. I love this topic. Trust is a big, big thing. Losing trust is one of the worst things that I've lost in my life. The trust of my family, of my children, to look at me and think that when I say something, I mean it. And it got to be the point where, we're going to go on vacation and they're like, yeah, Dad, we'll believe it when we see it. And I became untrustworthy. But the trust I lost that was the hardest thing to deal with was I did not trust myself. I was not a trustworthy person. The best way to build trust is to become a trustworthy person through your actions and what you do. If your job is trying to convince somebody else that they can trust you, that's called a con. That's what that's called. You live a trustworthy life and people will, apparently my time is up. when I started to believe in myself, that's when others started to see me as trustworthy. It's an inside out job. You cannot do it from the outside. You got to work on you. You got to believe in yourself. You don't believe in yourself, how the hell do you expect anybody else to believe in you? And I love everything that was said. This is a great group of people. Lynn, as always, I apologize, but
it's okay.
Great show. You did a good job.
Okay. Love you guys. Have a good one. We'll see you guys next week. Love
ya.
you. Bye.
Keeping me sane.